Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for sort of our first virtual conversation about America 250 and the commemorations coming up in 2026. Before we jump into that, because whenever we have a captive audience, we like to plug a few other things. So I want to just start with some other upcoming opportunities to get together. First of all, my name is Allison Campbell, she, her. I am with the Heritage Outreach Team at the Washington State Historical Society, along with my colleague Dylan, who's sort of new to the Historical Society, but not new to the small museum community in Washington. If you haven't had a chance to meet Dylan in person, I know you will sometime soon. We wanted to mention a couple of things. Our Diversity and Local History Grant, which some of you on the screen I know have received in the past. It funds paid internships to support any kind of diversity, equity, inclusion, access work that your organization is doing, either internal or external. So it could be working on internal policies or collections audits, or it could be doing a big oral history initiative or some other interpretive project with communities that you serve. So that is open now. That's an annual grant. There's going to be a workshop, and we're going to share links to all of this in our email, so don't worry about jotting it down, but just so it's on your radar, March 12th at 10 a.m. with our colleague Alethea Whitman, who runs that program. We really would love to see your organizations take advantage of this, and we can explain much more about how it all works, but it's a great opportunity. The other thing I wanted to mention, we have some of you remember our Common Concerns series of virtual kind of gatherings to talk about topics of interest to history organizations. We haven't done many of them this year because we've been on the road a lot and traveling a lot and doing more in person, but we do have one coming up on April 1st at 10 a.m. This one's for you, Anne. It's about collections and climate resilience and our organizations. So there's going to be some folks from Environment and Culture Partners, which is a big national nonprofit working on engaging cultural institutions with kind of climate resilience work that's happening. And so they've got a new tool that they worked on with the AIC on kind of how to assess risk to your organization based on your location and what kind of climate hazards are most likely to happen in your region. And then tools for sort of planning and strategizing around mitigating those risks. So if emergency preparedness is something that's on your mind, if you work with collections or have assets like historic buildings that you kind of worry about and it keeps you up at night thinking about floods or wildfires or things like that, that will be a great workshop April 1st at 10 a.m. The last thing I'll just say is a plug for Dylan, who is managing our affiliates program. If you are not a free affiliate of the Washington State Historical Society, he will share that link. It's just a free program where we can kind of stay connected and keep communicating and learn from you and connect you all with each other. And so there's lots more information about that on our website. That's all the business. Let's jump into America 250, which is why we're all here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody actually, yes, can everybody see that? Thumbs up.
There we are.
Perfect. I see a shaking head. Excellent. So I know some of us have been talking about America 250 for years now. It will be the semi-quincentennial coming up in 2026. And I know some folks are just now, it's sort of just now on your radar. Maybe this Zoom is sort of the first time that you're putting some thought to it. I would love to see on the screen, for those of you with your cameras on a scale of 1 to 5, how ready are you for America 250? 1 is like, this is the first time I'm thinking about it. Yep, good. 5 is like, we already have a plan and we know how we're going to pay for it. Ooh, I see 4s, I see 2s. What do you got? You're a 3, yeah. And Moses like 3s, perfect. Oh, Nancy's a 4. That doesn't surprise me. Overachiever. Awesome. Great. So what we're going to talk about today is just a couple of opportunities and invitations to connect with America 250 with sort of statewide initiatives that are happening and some even national initiatives that are happening. We fully expect and intend for America 250 to be celebrated and commemorated in different ways in different places all across the state. So this is meant to be kind of a very local kind of opportunity for communities. And we're just going to kind of offer some frameworks that you can plug into if it sounds like something that your community would benefit from, or if it makes sense for your organization. One opportunity in particular that we're going to really focus on today is called Out of Many One. And it's really intended for organizations that have collections and how to kind of use your collections to access 250. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of back up. So all of that is to say, all the ideas that you've been working on independently are going to be amazing, and I would love to hear about them. And we've built in some time to kind of hear sort of what you've been planning. But first, we're going to just sort of talk about some kind of more statewide initiatives that you can choose to participate in or not. So now I made my screen so I could see everybody's faces. Now I have to make you all go away. Okay. No, that did not work. Ooh. Okay. So I'm going to just back up a tiny bit and share a little bit about how we got to, where are we? March 4th, 2025, and thinking about America 250 from that statewide view. So this is our team in the Heritage Outreach Department, and we're all kind of working on this. Of course, many of you know Jay Bearston, our director of the department. I kind of just, because it's helpful and our department has grown so much, I kind of threw in here a little bit of a reference point for kind of what each of us kind of focuses on, though any one of us can be a point of contact for you. So I really just want to see your faces. I don't know how we can do that and present. Here we go. Well, all right. I'll imagine that you're all nodding your head and understanding what I'm saying. Dylan, please let me know if there's anything that pops up in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm monitoring that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So we have Jay. Many of you know me. I coordinate a lot of the sort of workshops and trainings and site visits. I coordinate the State History Awards, and currently I'm working on Heritage Caucus, which is a meeting that we host during the legislative session. Dylan, one of our newer colleagues, really focuses on the Monuments Project, but then he's your point of contact for that affiliates program. And if you are part of a regional network, which we know many of you are, there's the Heritage League of Pierce County and the Association of King County Heritage Organizations and Grays Harbor and CAMA and all of those networks and regional networks. So he's working to kind of connect, make sure we stay connected with all those groups. Our colleague Alethea Whitman, who runs the DLH grant program, and then yay, Lorraine, who will be joining us shortly, is our America 250 coordinator. So you know, some of us you know, and some of us are kind of new. So as a few years ago, many years ago now, as planning sort of started, the first step for a lot of states was to form a 250 committee or commission, and that happened at the sort of legislative level. So the state created a committee that is chaired by the Lieutenant Governor, Denny Heck, and that committee is made up of representatives from the House and the Senate, both political parties, the east and the west side of the state, and then representatives from all of the commissions, the Women's Commission, the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs, all of those sort of legislative commissions. And so that committee has been meeting for years now. And I want to kind of share out some of the work that they did initially to kick off all of this kind of 250 commemorationing. That's not a verb. Commemorating. So first is sort of just a justification why we really hope that you will participate in this alongside us and with us. We really feel like 2026 America 250 is a once in a generation opportunity to get folks thinking about and excited about history. It's just going to be a topic that's sort of in the air as we think about the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And so, what a great opportunity to kind of wave your hand and say, hey, there's incredible history here in our community, and there's an organization dedicated to preserving and interpreting that history. And come on down and see us, right? So we're really excited to hopefully be driving a lot of visitation and interest in your organizations and the work that you're already doing, right? And the service you already provide to your community. We're also hoping, and you're going to see these kind of themes or these ideas kind of threaded through everything that we share with you. We're hoping that America 250 and all of the energy around this can be an opportunity to really strengthen and grow your organizations. We know that you need more volunteers, and we know that you would love more members and all of that. And so, how can we help you, or how can you leverage America 250 to identify new partners in your community, to build relationships with people in your community that didn't exist before, right? So we're excited about sort of using this moment to build your organization. And then also, alongside that, strengthening our organizations by strengthening our connection to our local elected officials, and really helping them understand the role that your history organization can play in building historical literacy, civics education. These are the big ideas of sort of strengthening, using this moment to help strengthen our democracy, and the role that your organization can play in doing that. So that's like the why. Like, why should we care? 250 is kind of a weird number. It's not 300. It's not 200. This is why we hope that you will care. So the committee adopted three themes, and the kind of origins of these themes for our statewide commemoration came out of the American Association for State and Local History, and we'll be sure to share with you their resources that they've put together for America 250. And so we kind of took their themes that they were proposing and kind of adapted them for Washington. We felt like five was kind of enough, so too many, so we came up with three. So I just want to share those three themes with you. The first is We the People, right? And that's just a wonderful kind of phrase that can mean so much and be so all encompassing, and we have some bullet points here about ways you might think about We the People as a theme. What are the pivotal moments in Washington history? How have Washingtonians really um, exhibited or forwarded or tried to live up to the values of liberty and equality? How does that connect to the work of strengthening and protecting our democracy? And like, what does, when we say We the People, who's included in that, and who might be historically excluded from that, and how can we make sure that all of those stories are brought into the historical narrative? What you're not seeing a lot of here is kind of the facts, the dates, the people, the events of 1776, right? Um, you know, if we were the Virginia State Historical Society and we were having this conversation, it would look pretty different, because we would be home to, so much of the actual historical record for the sort of Revolutionary era. And we've kind of seen this as an opportunity. Actually, it may make it a little bit more challenging to connect, and we certainly hope that through this commemoration, folks will renew their understanding or have new understanding of some of the facts around the Revolutionary period. But because that's not super relevant to Washington state history, we have some other opportunities here, right? To just think about history at large, and think about, democracy, our government, and the ideals of the United States, without being so tied down to the kind of historical record of that period. So that's sort of just something I wanted to note. The second theme is Power of Place, right? Washington is a pretty unique and special place geographically. We have deep water ports, we have the incredible mountains, we have the incredible fertile farming regions on the east side of the state. And how has that shaped how we identify as Washingtonians, and the kinds of things that have happened here, and the stories? What stories can we tell that are kind of rooted in your place, right? Your local community. So there's lots of, I think, opportunity with this kind of theme of power of place, because we are such a rich and diverse state when it comes to that. And then the final one that we kind of get excited about is the theme of sharing history, which is the work that you all do in your organization, and how can we use this moment and really, again, help people understand the work that you do to preserve, protect, interpret, share history, right? So, whose histories in our collections are kind of missing, right? I always like to imagine it's 50 years in the future and we're celebrating the tricentennial, right? And maybe there's an incredible exhibit that we want to do um, about, the last 50 years of the history of our community. Have we collected anything? Or does our collection still really represent the founders of our community, now many hundreds of years in the past, and we've kind of missed. I mean, history is happening every day, right? And so how can we make sure that we have the tools that we're going to need to continue to tell history into the future? How can we make your organizations more sustainable and like stronger, as I said, through building support from local partners, local governments, local funders, and those relationships will hopefully carry your organization into a stronger future. How can we connect you all with teachers and your local libraries and other kind of resources that will kind of strengthen your capacity to share local history? Yeah, so these are kind of all things that we've been thinking about. These themes have been guiding a lot of the decisions that we've been making, and hopefully there's something in here that really kind of resonates with you all and might help kind of shape your conversations at your organization. Quickly, just sort of some outcomes. We did spend some time, several years ago when we were starting this process of thinking like, so at the end of 2026, what do we hope the outcome will be? Like, how will Washington and history organizations in Washington be different, right, at the end of it? And so, you can see kind of these six outcomes that we really, really hope for: that Washingtonians better understand how democracy works and your individual role in participating in that democracy. How tribal sovereignty, right, understanding the impact and importance of our tribes in Washington State who have been here since before time, and like understanding their treaties and their sovereign rights. Helping teachers and educators connect with the resources that you have in your museum, your collections, and how can we just um, empower teachers to really, feel like they have all the tools that they need to help students think critically about history and government and democracy. And then, of course, this local history one, we always have you all on our minds. So you are never forgotten. How can we help use this opportunity, and hopefully by the end of 2025, you all feel better resourced to do the work that you do into the future, right? That's a big goal of our department for sure. Okay. Are there any questions in the chat, or any questions at all? I'm going to pause for a moment to see if you have any questions about any of that, and I can certainly go back. And I'm going to also use this opportunity to see if I can figure out how to see your screen, because I really do like to see everybody's faces. Let's see. Anything anybody wants to? Oh, there's Holly. If not, we can keep rolling along here. Let's see. Send and record. I'm gonna try and do this. I think if I just hit present and it's not full screen, I think I can do, no. Okay, well, I guess I'm just still not gonna get to see your beautiful faces. Yeah, full screen. Okay, all right, well, I'll just keep rolling and trust that Dylan will
I'm,
holler stop. Yeah.
I will interject if I see some hands raised or someone
Okay, or
post
somebody
anything in the chat.
unmute or something. Okay, awesome. Or if they all look really bored and miserable, let me know that too. I can really spice it up here. Okay, so the first kind of, and really the main, let me also just preface this with a little caveat. We had high hopes that the state would invest lots of money in the commemorations in 2026. We put together packages that included grant programs and big statewide marketing opportunities and a big event in Olympia. And in case you haven't heard, it's kind of rough times in Olympia. And it is unlikely that any of that funding will come through for this biennium. And so we kind of worked through our disappointment and then kind of scaled some of the things that we were thinking about to make sure that we still provided opportunities for lots of people to engage in 250, but in ways that weren't going to cost everybody a bunch of money, right? Because sadly, we don't have money to give you to do some of this programming. So that's really where this kind of idea and this invitation came from. This idea of out of many one. We hope that history organizations across Washington will opt into this, and we hope that it will be a fun and really engaging process for you and your community that won't require a big budget. So that's sort of where we are with this. And so Out of Many One, or OMO for short, is a coordinated statewide exploration of the American experience through objects, images, and artwork from Washington's museums. Um, I say museums in there. We could swap that out for history organizations. Really, anybody who has any kind of collection or is interested in doing some community engagement to collect some stories or some objects or images can participate in this. Um, we kind of broke it down to five simple steps. Some steps are more simple than others. The first step is very simple, which is inviting and encouraging you all to become an official America 250 partner. This is the QR code. We will also send you the direct link. It is free. You get a really cool sticker for your window at your organization that sort of declares you publicly as an America 250 partner organization. But mostly what it means is that we can be communicating with you. So as new opportunities to engage in 250 emerge, as we hear of cool things that some of your organizations are doing, we can share that out and hopefully spark some other creative thinking for your organization. So we hope that you'll all become a partner. Again, it's free. Why not? You get a sticker and you get to hear more from us. So do that. Step number one, become a partner. Okay, step two. This is where it gets a little more rigorous. So with those 250 themes in mind, we are inviting you to spend some time in your collections. And the idea is that you are going to, through a process that is both internal and external, we hope, identify some objects that you'd like to exhibit during the 2026 season. So with these themes in mind, spend some time in your collections and identify some objects or images or works of art that you feel represents the American experience. You're going to come up with 5, 10. I mean, there are not strict rules about any of this, but come up with some objects that you want to present to the public. I think, Dylan, you were going to chime in here.
Yes. So I think at this stage, this is actually, let me take a quick step back and just say one of the things I think you'll hear as a running theme about this project generally is, and America 250, we really want to provide a platform and an opportunity where there's lots of kind of offshoots of ways that your organization can kind of use these projects to hopefully incorporate some of the awesome capacity work that you're already doing, or maybe add in new elements of capacity work that you could focus on. So with this stage in mind, there's I think two opportunities where you can think about kind of ways to more broadly engage your community. One is if you are in that position where you want to more actively collect for items in for your organization that better reflect your community. Again, use this America 250 to opportunity to do to push forward your active collecting campaign. And you can use this, again, America 250 as the opportunity and the marketing piece for that. Um, the other opportunity here, I think, is if you are looking to select those 5 objects, right? Again, of course, you can kind of do that internally, but I think there's a great opportunity here if you are looking to engage maybe a broader coalition of your community to start a community advisory group, or if you have one, maybe bringing some of those people on board to kind of help you select those 5 objects so that you do have different perspectives looking at this opportunity and kind of selecting 4 or 5 different objects that might have lots of tie-in for um, uh, different segments of your organization's audience. I think those were
Any
my.
questions about that, about step two? I want to also, and I probably should have mentioned this, or you may have been wondering as you hear us talk about this. You're going to most often hear us talk about America 250 using the word commemoration. It was very clear to us um, from the state committee and members on the committee that, this is a complicated topic for some people in our communities, right? Certainly for our tribal partners, right? This is, celebrating the anniversary of the United States. I mean, the implications of what that meant for their communities is challenging and hard. So we're going to use the word commemorate. And so you may use a different word in your, right? Again, the idea is this is very local, but what we hope you're doing through this process is talking to your community. And we're going to even have a whole session coming up on like, what do we mean when we say community, right? It's one of those words that's really, there are probably many communities within your community, and how do you navigate all of that? But a big goal, I think, for us is to really provide some scaffolding to help your organization better engage and connect with the communities you serve through this program. And we're going to provide lots of tools to help you do that. But some of you I know, because I'm looking at the people on the screen, are already doing that really, really well and could probably teach us how to do it. And there will be opportunities to hear from you all as well. But if you already have those really strong community relationships, this is a chance to kind of get them involved in a conversation about America 250. Okay.
Eh, And
Yeah, go ahead.
one last thing, Allison, I should have mentioned before. So I think Allison said at the beginning, we are going to be doing a series of these workshops. So for some of these little sidebars that I'm talking about through some of these steps, on March 25th for that workshop, I'll dive a little bit deeper into some of those opportunities for ways that you can kind of engage your community throughout this process.
I did not mention that, Dylan. It's written on my paper, but I didn't say it. This is the first of a series of 4 workshops, and this is really the introduction. At the end, I'll kind of break out the next 3 upcoming workshops, but they're all going to kind of um, chunk out a piece of this community engagement work that we hope you'll have the capacity to kind of kick off and do in your town and your community. Okay, so this is a little exercise. We're not going to do breakout rooms or anything. You're just going to do it in your brain, and then you're going to share. um, but sort of, where do you start in searching your collection or bringing community members in to search your collection around this idea of the American experience, about what it means to be American? You have to have some search words, some search terms, right? It's helpful. We're just going to brainstorm some words here, and maybe you could just add them in the chat as they come to mind. What words you would use to describe the American experience? Just a little light thinking early in the morning here for you. But I'll shut up here for a minute or two and let you think, and then you can just start populating the chat with some ideas. Awesome.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And so here's a list of words, many of, yeah, idealism, that's definitely. Here's some words that most of which we pulled directly out of the themes. But a lot of the words that you all mentioned are represented here. This idea, Nancy, which I know you are so committed to celebrating kind of the multicultural nature of the American experience, right? And the
Mhm.
difference, right? Celebrating kind of the difference that exists in our communities and finding strength in that difference. But that can also be, it can be catalyzing and it can also be challenging. Ideas of resistance and perseverance, um, and then equality, finding common ground, right, in our difference, um, resilience for sure. So we actually asked our collections team to just kind of do this process for us, like to just spend some time in the collections and with this kind of challenge and see what they came up with. I'm just going to share a couple of things that they kind of shared with us. Um, so the first, which I really love this object, and these are kind of examples of things, types of things you might have in your collection, but every collection is going to be different. And these are all very historical, not very contemporary. So there's a million different angles you can take and approaches you can take to this kind of this project if you choose to participate. Um, this was a diary from a woman living in Roslyn. And if you know a little bit about the history of Roslyn, it's a really kind of complicated, messy, and beautiful history of labor and of race, in a small town, it's really fascinating. And so there's some particular pages in here that speak to kind of the confluence of the complexity of the history of this small town, which I think is really, really interesting and pulls on some of those themes of sort of labor and family and difference, right? So that one was kind of interesting. They kind of went pretty literal with this one, which is cool. We have a really big ephemera collection. So this was just a poster getting folks to engage in the democratic process in the 1940s, right? During the war era. I have to say, this drives me absolutely crazy. The Statue of Liberty has 7 rays on her crown. I don't know what this is. So I can't look at her, but but still kind of a cool piece of ephemera that is very Washington based, very local, and very literal, right? Which is cool and easy. This was a medal. Obviously that theme of like service, but this is also kind of overlapped with themes of labor and work and family. This was a medal that was presented by the Brotherhood of Railroad Trainmen, so from a labor organization to an individual who fought in World War I. And there's some really incredible imagery on the medal of Lady Liberty, and some kind of interesting nuance to this object. So I thought that was pretty cool. This is again pretty literal, but this is an 8th grade test that was issued by OSPI, right, in the 1913 during around World War I, a little bit before World War I, and so you can kind of see there's a history and civics section on the test. You could probably have some fun with that. And this is from our small collection of items that were used by braceros, by Mexican migrant workers who were brought into the country to work in agriculture during World War I. So this is kind of really expanding and complicating that idea of American experience to include folks who, some groups might not immediately think of, or like the American experience extends beyond citizenship to include all the folks who come here and have contributed in super meaningful and hard ways to our American experience. So there's lots of kind of ways to complicate and noodle this idea, and what you have in your collections. Ask folks outside of your staff and volunteers, what kind of ideas they have, what words they would use. Think about what stories you maybe haven't told in your museum before and what objects you have to kind of include those experiences in this project. And then, of course, as Dylan mentioned, think about what things you don't have in your collection that you'd really like, and you could use this opportunity to do some of that relationship building and outreach to communities that aren't currently represented. So there's hopefully some opportunity here to engage with this from different angles in ways that will best serve your organization. So that was step two. Oh my gosh, we're only on step two. I'm going to let Dylan take over for step three.
Yes. So, okay, so then you have selected through some process these five items that you want to that you want to narrow down from to select your one item. Um, we think that this is a really, hopefully a really exciting part of the process is that you can use these five items to then go back to your audience, to your community, and have them provide input and help select that final object that you want that is going to represent your organization and kind of your community for this out of many one. Um, uh, there are you know, lots of different ways you can do this. You can just, have an online form and kind of put that out there everywhere. You can create a collection election station and make a little ballot paper, have, photos of your five items that you selected and have people vote on which item that they think should, that they would like to see represent your community, right? You could take that out to the fairs and the parades and all of the other, kind of outreach or events that you're involved in your community. But really, it's a way, I think, to hopefully to create kind of something easy, engaging that you can kind of get some feedback from your community about what resonates with them. And so, I think because of that, that's why, it is really helpful to have that first stage of selecting those five items is to be thinking about, you know, um, different items that people feel like they have a selection of items to choose from that might resonate with them in some way, right? In the different ways. One of the things that Alice and I have had conversations, and you can see from some of the objects that we selected, right? Um, there are really some opportunities to really think about items that represent maybe broader themes or something that, different parts of your community can relate to. So if I used to work at the Kent Museum, and in Kent there was a really big history of industries, I'll say, right? It was a very large agricultural area. It was the center of hop production in the late 1800s. Now, and then in the 60s with Boeing moving in, and now there's a huge aerospace industry there. So, while there are kind of those broader universal themes. So, can you think of or select items that might um, um, uh, people can relate to from a variety of different ways, right? Other than maybe something that might just only have resonance with kind of a very small or specific part of your community, right? But again, there's there's lots of easy ways that you can kind of start to get that feedback, but I think it really is just hopefully getting in that process, that practice, or utilizing that process in a different way to gather that feedback from your organization, from your community. Excuse me. Um, okay, I think that's all I wanted to do for step three, and
And
then
just a
for
reminder that Dylan's going to do a whole session on gathering that
I
community
am
feedback on March 25th. Okay.
all right. And then, so then after you've selected your, or after you've selected your one item, you've gotten that feedback from your community, then you're going to submit that information to the Washington State Historical Society. And we're going to compile all that information and share that out, right? So that's one of the beauty. So this out of many one has many meetings. Out of many in your community, you're selecting one object for your item from your uh, organization. And then out of all of these communities and these organizations participating throughout the state, then we're gonna have kind of like a map of all of these items that have been selected across the state, so people can really get a sense of you know how how Washington state communities view the American experience, right? And so I think that's also something helpful, hopefully, to think about and kind of guide your thinking as you're going through this process of, what are the items, what are the things that might help us kind of um, uh, really represent our community, not just internally, but also, for others that are looking across the state to see kind of what items were selected. And we're thinking through what are the processes for what we can kind of incentivize people to maybe go out and visit different organizations and see the different items that those communities selected. Can we gamify it in some way? Those are all things that we're kind of in the process of identifying the exact mechanisms we can do that. But again, we really want to encourage, once these items are selected, that we get people to go out and visit, to engage with your organization from all across the state, which leads into kind of step 5, right? So you've selected this item, then you're going to display that item. We will have templates for putting together the label that goes along with it. We love stickers. Maybe we can, have a little out of many one sticker or something like that, right? But anyway, having those templates for displaying that item, and tying in how that item relates to the themes of America 250 into this larger project. And I will say, I should throw out here, our collections team always wants to make sure that we're really thinking through, right? If the item that gets selected is something that is very um, delicate, fragile, you're not really willing to put it out for the full year. We completely understand. We are really thinking about, there's a specific period, basically over the summer of 2026, in between Flag Day and
I know, I was just looking it
Constitution
up.
Day, and Flag Day and
And
Constitution Day.
Flag Day, yeah. So it's like June to September, basically, that
Mhm,
we're calling our commemorative period.
mhm.
So you don't have to rush and get all of this done by January 1st, 2026. You may choose to, you may be on the ball, and that'd be wonderful. But we are looking more narrowly at that commemorative period, which is, roughly mid-June to mid-September. Those dates will get Lorraine to remind us of those dates in a second.
And I did get a note. Is my audio sounding a little better? It sounded like it was getting a little choppy, maybe.
You
Okay.
sound okay. That was probably me coughing in the background. Sorry. We
Oh, okay.
we're
Okay.
we're literally right next to each other. I had to run out. So apologies for that. I want to just also chime in here because I know our colleagues, particularly at Moses Lake, that you used the panel exhibit in the past for the suffrage centennial.
Yes.
We are producing a panel exhibit. It's there's still some questions about how big and the format, but it will essentially be the same, downloadable. You can scale it to whatever size you need. We may be reaching out to some of you for some feedback on that as it starts to come together. So look out for that. But again, for folks who aren't familiar with the one we did for the suffrage centennial, it was literally a link to a Dropbox. You just request it and we send you the link that has all the files, and it includes files with the panels completed, with the content there, and then all of the design elements, and some blank template panels so that you can kind of weave in your local story if you choose to. I know, I think the way and you all did it was you used our panels to kind of set up your own suffrage exhibit. So it was sort of the introduction and the sort of background history, and then you dove into the local story with your own exhibit. I think that's awesome. So anyway, yes, Suzanne, it is coming. We have made it a priority to make sure we have that panel exhibit for y'all. Um, anything else from you, Dylan, before we see if there are questions, ideas, wonderings?
That's it.
Awesome. Phew, that was a lot. What are your thoughts? just unmute and go for it if anybody has anything. Does this feel, how about just on the screen? Give me a thumbs up if this feels like an opportunity that your organization and community can and would like to engage with. It feels relevant, or you
I
could make it relevant.
I
Yeah,
just
Anne.
I was just gonna say I think it's exciting that you're gonna do the map so then
Yeah,
people, they can travel because we get a lot of tourists from the west side and just be able to travel to all the museums and see their significant item for the American
yeah.
experience. I think that's really, really neat and awesome.
Well, we have big ideas, and again, I hesitate to say them, but I'm going to because we like to dream big. Who knows what funding will allow us to do? But if we gather all this content from all of you, I mean, you're going to make our jobs really easy in 2026 by completing this form. We are imagining, I mean, how awesome would it be to have a podcast where each segment focuses on one community and the process and the object that they chose. We're imagining a special issue of Columbia Magazine that features all of the objects from across the state. I think there's just going to be a lot of opportunity to spotlight all of you, your collections, your communities, and sort of your local kind of perspective on this idea of America 250. So yeah, we're really hopeful.
And I was gonna ask what Dolly just put in
Yeah,
the chat.
yeah. The
When is it
deadline.
due? Yeah.
What's when is this homework due? So we hope to have the online form because we're trying to build it into the existing America 250 website. It's a little more complicated than just a Google form, but we hope by the end of March to have that form available. And then, I would say I think that we could probably by early 2026, maybe I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but we want to give you guys a good long chunk of time to do that community engagement piece. So I think if we can start getting content and then have like all the content kind of like settled and the deadline in early 2026, that will give us time to build out whatever kind of games or promotion that we want to do.
Mm.
Um,
Al
yeah,
Al Allison, there's a couple
yeah,
questions in the chat I was going to maybe jump into address.
great.
So there was a couple things about, collections. Can it be an architectural element? I know sometimes we've had like, can it be, the entire ship, right? We're saying object very loosely, right? It could be an object, it can be a photo, it can be a diary, it can be an entire building, it could be a landscape, right? That is okay. I think the important element of it is that you have maybe more than just one thing so that there's some way of people giving that input into kind of what is representing their community, representing the community in some way, right? So um, we're not putting very strict limits on what we mean when we say object. I think it's really but it's kind of worth either internal conversation or if you want a conversation with us about kind of how can we think through what we classify as an object so that you can kind of get the best feedback and representation possible. Yeah.
Yeah, Holly, like I can imagine maybe a Main Street organization in a community might like I'm obviously Tacoma is where I'm most familiar with. And if I think I can think about I can think of at least five buildings, historic buildings in Tacoma that I think really I could make the case that they represent an American experience, right? We have a immigrant aid association, the Tacoma Community House, that's over 100 years old, right? And they're in a new home now, but there's some of their historic homes. The Nettie Asbury House, oh my gosh, the founder of the first NAACP chapter west of the Mississippi. Like, yeah, I could totally write you a statement about how that speaks to the American experience. So yeah, we're really trying to be as loose as possible with this. But what we do need ultimately is we need a photograph and we need a statement, right? An explanation of this thing and why and how it connects and how your community connected it to the that's what we need. You can pick this up and run with it in any direction on your end. Yeah, for sure. Great questions. Any other kind of general wonderings or challenges that you foresee or opportunities that maybe are embedded here that we didn't see or cool. Yes, Renee.
Well, I come from a curatorial background, so I know what collections are what you're dealing with here and understand the program. I'm retired now, but I'm also here representing the Daughters of the American Revolution Tacoma chapter, and I just thought I'd throw it out there that the DAR is heavily invested in America 250. We have our own committee nationwide, plus each of the chapters have their own chair, which I am. But there are opportunities for organizations. There is a traveling exhibit that the DAR has put together, and it is free to use. Talking about the revolution, it's traveling. They have several of them going out. I don't know how many of them there are, but they're going from location to location. I can share information about that if anybody's interested. And also, there are other opportunities for us to get involved. As far as I'm concerned, in Tacoma and surrounding areas, Pierce County, our members, we're the oldest chapter in the state. We were founded in 1894, and we have a deep history and a very large membership, and we are very interested in getting involved and perhaps helping other members, other communities, other organizations in the communities that might need assistance, might need volunteers to help with a celebration or commemoration or some event. We also, we have reenactors. We have people that are history that do. We have actually a speakers bureau that do historic speaking on all sorts of subjects. Many of them are located in Washington. And
Renee, can I just interrupt you really quick and repeat what you've just said, because you're a little bit soft, and I think I can remember everything you just said, and then I'll let you add on. So Renee is from the Tacoma chapter of the DAR, and we do know that the DAR is hard at work planning for 2026. I got to see, so they have a traveling exhibit that's available for free to organizations. I actually got to see it at the Schmidt House in Tumwater. It's excellent. It's going to give you a lot of that history content that some folks in your community are really going to want, that the history stuff, specifically around the revolution. And this is a great way to connect with that. And they have, we'll make sure. And this, I think that Lorraine, who's going to speak in just one second, has all the connections with the DAR, so can help push that information out. They have reenactors, all sorts of things. So definitely, if you have a chapter of the DAR in your community, we definitely encourage you to reach out to them if that's something that you're interested in. But Renee also, more importantly, mentioned that, and I do know that the DAR is growing. Membership is growing, and they have volunteers that may be able to come out and help support your organization. There's going to be a lot happening. Lorraine has been visiting county offices, municipalities. There's going to be a lot happening around the 4th of July. Like, I think you'll see a lot of the 4th of July 2026 community celebrations themed around America 250. And if your organization wants to connect with that and tap into that, you might need some volunteers to help with your, your big potluck or your festival or whatever. And so think about the DAR as a source of volunteers for that year. That's wonderful. Anything that I missed, Renee, or?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was so my microphone so low. No, I think you got it, but I just wanted to reach out. I did put in the chat links to the chapters in the area so that you can find one in your area if you'd like to reach out. Each chapter is to actually sponsors the person, the entity that's using that exhibit. So you might want to reach out and connect with one of those. And and I also put the information about the exhibit in the chat as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. We're glad you're here, Renee. I'm going to we only have a few more minutes, and there's a few national opportunities that are, one of which is happening imminently. So I want to share those with you, and I want to take this chance to introduce Lorraine, who is our America 250 coordinator, to introduce herself and talk about these two kind of statewide happenings, national happenings.
Great. Thanks, Allison, and Dylan. Thank you for this presentation. It was great, really great. And thank you all for joining us today. I see a few familiar names on the list. Hi, Anne. Thank you. Good to see you, and really appreciate your help. I just wanted to, there's so much going on with America 250, and there's so many ways for organizations and communities and individuals to engage in the next 18 to 20 months. But I want to talk about two things that are going on right now that people can get completely to start getting engaged with. And the first one is Two Lights for Tomorrow. Two Lights for Tomorrow is April 18th, 2025, 45 days from today, not next year. Two Lights for Tomorrow is commemorating the midnight ride of Paul Revere, when Paul Revere and others rode from the Boston area to warn the people in the countryside that the British were coming, And two lights were hung in the Old North Church in Boston to signal to the country that an attack was imminent. And as we all know, the battles of Lexington and Concord immediately followed. What we want to do this year is recreate the two lights shining in the darkness, shining for independence, shining for us coming together as a community, coming together as a nation, coming together as citizens to work together. So we're asking lots of different buildings, homes, public spaces to put two lights up on the evening of April 18th. And these can be anything from, huge spotlights shining up and illuminating City Hall or the county courthouse or another building, or it could be something simple like two LED candles stuck in a house window on the evening of April 18th. Anybody can participate in this. There are, I think, 20 to 25 states that will be participating around the country, probably more by then. There will be a toolkit available on the website soon. We're sending information out with some ideas. There's educational materials to get children engaged with this and share some information. So be on the lookout for that, and keep checking back to our website, america250wa.org, for those toolkits and other information if you are not already a partner receiving information. Second thing we wanted to chat about briefly today was America's Field Trip. This is another national initiative that is going on right now. The deadline is April 16th. So 43 days to go until that. But this is a nationwide contest for students in grades 3 through 12. We're trying to get this information out to the schools, private schools, public schools, charter schools, tribal schools, home schools, anybody related to students in grades 3 through 12 to get them to participate. The students have to write a short essay or create a little bit of art that answers what does America mean to me? And there are cash prizes, but the grand prizes are all expense paid trips to one of 25 different iconic American landmarks and having a private behind the scenes tour. This is an amazing opportunity for young people, and I'm jealous because I would love nothing more than going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and wandering around the bowels and seeing all this great stuff that's not even on display. But the Kennedy Space Center, the Alamo, the Library of Congress, these are all great places for America's Field Trip. Is there anything you guys can do to help spread the word in your community? There is some information on our website. The national website is very engaging and has information about the submissions and the guidelines and the rules. The national folks have promised to do this again next year, and there will be 50 field trips again available next year. So we're really hopeful that we'll have lots of submissions from the state of Washington and possibly even a grand prize winner from our state. And then the last thing that I just quickly wanted to mention, I know quite a few of the organizations that are online now are already partners, but if you are representing an organization that has not officially signed up to be a partner, please do. Renee, I am not 100% sure if the Tacoma DAR chapter has. I have to look at my notes, but many DAR chapters have already signed up to be partners. So if you have, I apologize that I can't remember. But if you're representing another organization, or if you work with organizations in your community, they don't even have to be historically related. They could be arts and cultural groups, the schools, the parks, the service organizations. Really, any group can find a way to engage with America 250. Please sign up to be a partner. You'll start to receive our information. You'll be listed on our website, so you'll start to see all the other organizations in your county that want to be part of this. And hopefully we can start building this these great resources across communities and organizations. As Renee was saying, they've got groups, people that want to volunteer. So we want to share our resources and work together. And I'm always available to answer questions or get you information if you need it. I'm going to leave it there because I know we're at the end of our time, but feel free to reach out if you've got questions. I don't think we've got time now, Allison, or...
Nope, we don't. But I just wanted to add one more thing, Lorraine. Another advantage to becoming a 250 partner is that you will get the kind of a marketing package and toolkit that will allow you to use a lot of our branding on your social media feeds and in your newsletters. There's going to be a little form you have to sign to say you're not going to do naughty things with it, but that is another kind of benefit to becoming a partner. And stickers, I know that our Moses Lake friends are waiting for their window sticker. That'll be coming out to you soon. All the partners will get that great sticker. So thank you, Lorraine. Lorraine is a wonderful resource. Again, she has been meeting. She's probably already met with your county commissioners, your local electeds. If you're wanting to know who she's talked to so that you can kind of access that, we can help you connect. So I'm sorry that we ran out of time to have a more kind of informal conversation. I did just want to mention the next sessions that are coming up. We will record them all, so if you can't make them, that's no problem. Next week, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about how to meet your communities where they are. And we're going to talk a lot about, helping you get out to your county fair, your state fair, your local malls, your local farmers markets, and what does it look like to table at a public event. And we'll kind of share some ideas about that. Again, with the idea that this is how you can engage your community in 250 and then beyond 250, right? Like once you kind of build out your capacity to do some of that tabling. Then on March 18th, Alethea is going to be here to talk, sort of to dig into that idea of community and talk about strategies for communicating with different communities that you serve, and expanding your understanding of who you serve, and some tips on connecting with folks. And then on the 25th, Dylan's going to kind of really dig into that kind of gathering feedback from your community through surveys, online, paper surveys, social media surveys, and then sort of a next layer of evaluation that you can do with your community, but really how to better connect and hear from your community so that you know you truly are staying relevant and doing things that are really engaging and of interest to them. Phew! Here we go, guys. 2026 is right around the corner. We are here. Every one of us on this team are here as a resource, as a point of contact. I know you all have my email. So please feel free to follow up this conversation with questions or ideas or concerns or things you'd like to share. And hopefully we'll see some of you next week for our follow-up. And we're just excited to keep the conversation going and support y'all however we can. So have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.